One of the many hurdles that the current pandemic puts in front of us is the damage it does to confidence. In my many phone calls with All Saints St Mary's people, it comes up quite often and takes different forms. For one person, it may be a general sense of anxiety about going out. For others, it'll be something very specific, the dislike of travelling on a bus or going up and down in a lift. It often reaches new heights when change is in the air. Feeling safe in a family bubble is one thing. Exposing that family to new risks, quite another. Sometimes the blow to confidence is generated by long absences from doing what we used to do as a matter of course, browsing in shops or being in crowded places and so on. I certainly felt it when, after 16 weeks of not leading worship, I was back behind the altar with all sorts of new guidelines to follow. It reminded me of my years as a teacher and that nagging worry at the end of August when the new school year was about to begin after the long summer break. Would I be ready? Would I still remember how to do it? My middle daughter's school-related anxieties during lockdown, first of all about the demands of homeschooling. How on earth would she cope? Followed a few months later by real anxiety about sending her reception-aged daughter back to school. Now she is desperate that they should all three of them be back in school in September, for their sake as well as hers. And every suggestion of spikes or second waves, or the government changing their mind, sets her off on a whole chain of what I call what-if thinking. And of course, for some the hurdles are much higher than that, where the virus has done long-term damage to health, or taken away livelihoods, or made the future seem very precarious indeed. Of course, there are ways of building confidence, and at all levels people are working very hard to do just that, albeit with varying degrees of success. As far as worship is concerned, we've done our best to respond to the advice and guidance being given to us from government, the National C of E organisation and our diocese, with the major aim, as Father Bob has described it, of seeking to provide as safe a space as possible for everyone to be with God, to be with others, and to be with the rest of creation, whether that is through services in church or streamed over the internet, via dedicated phone lines, or by sending material by post. And we have striven to be there for people, to know and to be confident that they are not isolated, not alone, and that the church family is something very real, a supportive example and sign of the love of God. And we are all, each one of us, you and me, part of that effort, that endeavour. The word confidence comes from Latin. My father was an expert in classics, a gift that almost completely passed me by, except in the matter of where words come from and what they really mean. I do find that very fascinating. Confidence, as a word, is a good example, coming as it does from the Latin confidere, to have trust. The first part of the word con means with. The second part, fido, means trust or faith. As we might sing at Christmas, if we're allowed to sing by then, Adeste Fideles, O come, all ye faithful. So confidence in English is about having faith or trust. This last Sunday we had two readings, one from the 10th chapter of St. Paul's letter to the Romans, verses 5 to 15, and the other a gospel reading, St. Matthew's account of Jesus walking on the water. It seems to me that both of those readings say something important about having faith or trust, and where to place that faith and trust. St. Paul speaks about the spiritual reality of Christ coming to earth, his dying on the cross and his rising again, as a reality accessible for all who call upon him and express faith in him. However tough the going, however high the hurdles, rest in him and ask for grace, and grace will be given. That, he says, is the wonderful good news. Our Gospel reading describes that tough going in terms of a violent storm. The disciples in their small boat, struggling with wind and waves that were seemingly beyond what they could deal with. It may seem to you a pretty familiar situation, to be faced with something threatening and beyond our control. Jesus came to them in their fear and their need, and in the darkness of the raging storm they heard him say, "Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid." And then Peter, bless him, impulsive as ever, half believing, half afraid, feeling that call, that sense of, if this is Jesus, then I must try to follow, to do what he does and what he asks of me, steps out of the boat. For a moment all is well, until he sees the enormity of the waves around him, and his confidence wavers, the fear rushes in, and he feels he is drowning. He cries out for help from the Lord, feels his strong arm bearing him up, and hears those words of gentle rebuke and encouragement. Is that really all the faith you have? Why all this doubt? Just as it was with the disciples, the faith we have is so often mixed with fear and doubt. That is, I think, the nature of the life of faith. We so want to bring his love and his power and his peace to a world that is so full of need. Sometimes the enormity of what faces us seems impossible. But as is so often the case, the moment when we're most strongly tempted to give up, the moment when our confidence is at the lowest ebb, is the moment when help is only just a step away. Peter needed to keep his eyes on Jesus, and so do we. Our confidence, our faith and our trust depends on him from start to finish. And when it wavers, when we feel anxious and alone, and all that we encounter seems dark and stormy and uncertain, then let us not forget that God in Christ is with us, and let us not fail to hear those wonderful words, "Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid." May God bless you and keep you.